Hey everybody, this is Mars. This is my second attempt at this video. I tried to shoot one last night and somehow I jiggled the camera on my new tablet and ended up filming the whole thing in slow motion. So hopefully this comes out right tonight. I wanted to just go through, I've got one eBay win and I was just digging through some boxes, pulling stuff around. So I pulled some magazines out. I thought I'd show them off. I finished off a few runs. So I just thought I'd show you guys some stuff in my boxes. This stuff is, if you've been following my videos, you know that I've been slowly but steadily having my horror and monster magazines bound into permanent collections for my library. I show them off as they come in. Here is my latest. Dracula Lives is finished. This is in 2 volumes. Here's the first volume, Dracula Lives. So I'm working my way through the 60s and 70s of these magazines I grew up with and love. Here we have Scream. This is issue number 10 from Skywald. I need 2 more issues to have Scream finished off. The Skywalds are tough. They're tough to find in any kind of grade. It seems like the Skywald used like a cheaper type of paper than Warren's and Marvel's of the same period. So they tend to, your average Skywald is a little rougher than your average Warren or Marvel. So there's 11 issues in Scream, and then they had 2 other horror magazines, Nightmare and Psycho. So I'm almost finished. Scream, I need 2 more issues, and I'm close to being finished with Nightmare and Psycho. And that'll be an accomplishment because some of these issues these Skywalds are pretty hard to find. I don't think they were published in the numbers that the Warrens and the Marvels were. So that'll be a big deal for me when I polish these off. Here we have Kull, the Barbarians. This is published by Marvel towards the end of the 70s. This is probably 77, maybe 78. Most of their magazines, they culled, canceled a bunch of their magazines in the summer of 75, which is a very big deal to me. I mean, it really hurt my feelings. I loved all the magazines, The Vampire Lives and Tales of the Zombie and Dracula Lives and Monsters of the Movies. In summer of 75, they published annuals and chopped off ended most of their titles. Only Savage Sword of Conan and, let's see what else. Savage Sword of Conan and Deadly Hints of Kung Fu survived, and they started a couple extra other titles. Kull and the Barbarians, I think, was to pick up some of the stuff from, they had Savage Tales, I assume, but as you can see, it only lasted 3 issues. There's issue 2 and then issue 3, and you see Kull had the other Robert E. Howard characters. One of my favorite characters is Solomon Kane. I love Solomon Kane. So this is an easy run to collect. These are pretty cheap. And then I threw in the Marvel preview that came in a couple years later of Kull. And that's, I think, all the Marvel Kull that they published, in magazine size anyway. Here we have Monster Howls. This one is a little tough to find. It's from 1966. I was surprised when I came across this how early this is published. This is from Robert Sproul, who the publisher of Cracked magazine. And this is a bunch of monster gags, photos, and cartoons. A lot of nice work in here from John Severin. When I was a kid in the 70s, I bought Cracked. I was a bigger fan of Cracked than I was of Mad, and it was primarily because of John Severin's art. I love John Severin. And anyway, there's a lot of his art here in Monster Howls. This was a one-shot. Sproul would eventually publish For Monsters Only, which is a genuine monster magazine. But he would also have like monster gags and stuff. Severin would do gags. And these would be recycled through Cracked magazine and the Cracked specials of the 70s. He would recycle the stuff. Also from Robert Sproul was Web of Horror. This is a straight-up horror magazine done in the style of creepy and eerie. I believe this is 66 or 67, somewhere in there. Maybe 68. This is Jeff Jones cover. There's early Bertie Wrightson material in here. There's 3 issues. This is a really good magazine. 3 issues of Web of Horror. These are not really all that tough to find. but they're definitely worth picking up. There's some great work. That's a nice Wrightson cover. As I said, unfortunately, it only lasted 3 issues. When I think the editor, I think I read an article somewhere, he decided he wanted to be a flower child, and he left and went to San Francisco to get some of that free love. So that was the end of Web of Horror. So, anyway, the end of this box is Savage Tales. This was part of Marvel's juggernaut of magazines during their heyday of like 73 to 75. Savage Tales, it started out with Conan, and eventually Conan became popular enough to spin off in his own magazine, Savage Sword of Conan, and Kazar took over. Savage Tales #1, excuse me, this is from 68, I believe. This issue 1. This was a one-shot. It came out at the same time as the Spectacular Spider-Man magazine. This is the first appearance of Conan for Marvel Comics. Also the first Man-Thing. And this is a key issue. My issue's a little rough. But this is a very important Marvel key if you don't have this one. It's a great magazine. It only lasted 1 issue. And then in 73, after they launched Dracula Lives and Tales of the Zombie, they brought Savage Tales back. Conan had proved to be a hit in the color comic, and so the black and white with the no code gave him a chance to do a little more adult material. So anyway, they pushed him to the front of Savage Tales, along with King Kull, you see, and Kazar. And eventually, it said Conan would become popular enough to where he got his own magazine, and Kazar took it over. And this is a really good magazine. I think the writing in Savage Tales was probably the best of the magazines coming out at this time. There's some really fine work here by Jerry Conway. Neil Adams did a lot of the art. And there's some really nice stuff if you like sword and sorcery. I'm not a big fan of sword and sorcery, but this was a good magazine. This was always the lesser of the magazines when I was a kid. You know, when I was a kid buying my magazines, I was hoping for, I go to the newsstand, I was hoping for a Warren, #1. Marvel, though, Vampire Tales, Dracula Lives, or Monsters of the Movies. At the very least, I wanted to come away with a Savage Tale. Savage Tales was like a consolation prize. So, but rereading as an adult, these stories are probably a little better written than most of the stuff you'll find in Vampire Tales and Dracula Lives, even if the subject matter is not entirely as important to me as the monsters. So, and there's an annual. That was from, like I said, summer of 75. I remember the annuals because we went, I was 7, and we took our big vacation to Disney World that summer. And I remember stopping at the Stuckey's, and I think I picked up the Monsters of the Movies annual there. And that was it for all the really good the magazines I loved. They would continue, the lesser titles would pick up. But I was never a big Deadly Hands of Kung Fu and Conan. I never really followed Conan that closely. So in '79, Tomb of Dracula would come back as a magazine once the color comic was canceled. The Frank Langella movie came out. It was a big hit on Broadway, and the new movie with Langella and Laurence Olivier provided Marvel an excuse to put a magazine out, and that's a really good magazine. 6 issues of that. I've got that. I'll show that at some other time. ETA Nick has shown off a few of those issues. Some really fine work in there by... there's a really good Steve Ditko story in there, which you wouldn't think Steve Ditko doing Dracula, but there was a story in there I really liked. Wolfman and Steve Ditko. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to show off tonight. I just wanted to touch base and say hi to everyone, and say a... tip my cap to Mike from the Comic Crypt of Castle Hills. I'm sure most of us in the community have heard what happened to his mic. His channel's been removed. Michael, if you're watching this, I hope you come back. I hope there's a way to get you back. You were among my very favorites. I miss your videos. So, buddy, I miss you, and I hope you're able to come back. So this one's for you, Mike. So, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you next time.